If my people break the law, they shall be punished.
She's played royalty,
Charlotte Gray.
she's played spies, and she's played a mythical being from the imagination of a master storyteller.
Now, Mr. Hughes.
If it would be convenient, Miss Hepburn.
But among her plethora of silver screen performances, it was her role as a Hollywood legend that scored Cate Blanchett her first Oscar statuette for Best Supporting Actress,
I need to stay here for a while.
followed by her portrayal of the fallen Manhattan socialite in Woody Allen's Blue Jasmine that won her a second Academy Award for her leading role. But she's done more than charm critics and audiences with her acting versatility and dedication to her craft. Off-screen, she's a style and beauty icon, a wife and mother,
To create and help foster creative classrooms.
and an avid supporter of the Sydney Theatre Company, of which her husband is the artistic director. This month on Talk Asia, we're in Sydney with Cate Blanchett
Welcome.
to find out about her first big break into Hollywood and why she's so curious about what makes people tick.
And I said, darling, because I'm an actor.
Cate Blanchett, welcome to Talk Asia.
Thank you.
We're here in your beautiful city of Sydney, in the Sydney Theatre Company, where this place has been your home away from home. I mean, ever since you perhaps left the drama school.
Yes, well, no, I actually grew up in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And then I came to Sydney to go to the National Institute here and then got catapulted out, and I thought, well, I'll give it 5 years and see what happens. To return here and run the Sydney Theatre Company was pretty, it was a pretty enticing offer.
This particular theatre company was also the place where you got some of your first major roles on stage. When you come back here now and you see these walls and you walk through those doors, what do you remember?
So when I emerged from drama school, I had no expectation that I would ever work in film. It was wasn't a particular interest of mine. I've been mostly influenced by experiences in the theatre growing up, and so I naturally gravitated and desired to work at companies like the Sydney Theatre Company. And so to return here, I can still, walking down the fire tunnel, I still remember my first audition and getting my first job here, and I thought, well, this is it. You know, a huge door to a really exciting career has opened simply by working amongst, you know, the theatre greats who I'd admired, you know, Robin Nevin and the late Wendy Hughes and Geoffrey Rush, all of those wonderful, Robert Menzies, you know, wonderful actors who I've had the great good fortune to work here.
Some would say that, I guess it was, 5 years after your first role here, first starring role in Oleana, 1993. 5 years later, Elizabeth happens. Some people would say that 5 years, not a long time.
In actress years, I mean dog years, it's often quite similar, that feels, I started quite late in film. I think I made my first film when I was about 25. But in retrospect, I think my agent was panicking about it more than I was. I think the only thing I knew for sure is that I wanted to, whatever I did, I wanted to travel with my work. Quite, you know, an adventurous spirit. And I wanted to, whatever I did, the most important thing to me was to work with people that I respected and to have the respect of my peers. That was what I said to myself when I was 17. But what I actually did was secondary. And hopefully I'm, you know, achieving or coming somewhere close to achieving those goals.
And is that perhaps also the goal behind how you picked the kind of roles? Because there is that danger of being known for only doing certain types of roles, or for example, if you're going to be a period actress, or... I
think so. I think it depends on the type of actor you are or what you're, you know, what you're interested in. But for me, I realised very quickly that after Elizabeth, you know, being relatively unknown internationally, even domestically here in Australia, in terms of film, I wasn't necessarily not known on the stage, but that I got sent a lot of roles which were ostensibly the same story as Elizabeth with different outfits. So that's the story, and I thought, well, I've sort of told parts of that story. I'm more interested in, that's a really great role. That's a really interesting film. I die on page 9, doesn't matter. That's an interesting challenge. I haven't done that before. And I remember a director saying to me a few years back, he said, you've got to stop taking, small roles. And I said, why? I said, that's what interests me. I'm not interested in building a career as such. I'm more interested in the experience. And if it means, those offers dry up, I don't know, maybe I'll go and work with the Red Cross. There's many things that you can do with your life. It doesn't necessarily, I think if you're in a creative sphere, or if you're hungry for experience, then those experiences don't necessarily happen like rungs of a ladder or in a linear way. And to me, that's a dynamic life.
How do you want to be challenged when you think something is worth pursuing?
I think once you've achieved certain things that are understood as being career milestones, which are wonderful, you've got to then be terrified. Sounds negative, but I think it's that sense of adrenaline that you get by bungee jumping into an unknown place. And I think a good script, a good creative conversation puts you in that zone, I think, and that's what keeps you alive to the work, I think.
There's a line in Elizabeth, the Golden Age, where it said, when the storm breaks, some are dumb with terror, and some spread their wings and soar. That line struck me because that's what separates those who do and those who don't. And that sense of fear that you feel, does that stay with you with every role that you embark on?
Yes, and it does. I think about that as a parent too. Maybe it was ever thus. And I was just lucky to have teachers who encouraged me to be brave. They're always people who are working beyond their comfort zone. And I think it's, and the media places a very sort of big spotlight on those that fail, who have succeeded in the past. And I think it's, for me as an actor, I don't know in all professions, but you need to develop a thick enough skin to withstand that gauntlet that you run with the media, that sense of public shame, of failure. You have to keep risking that and develop the thick skin whilst having a very thin skin in relationship to your work, because as an actor, it's all about being open and sensitive and available and vulnerable. But then at the same time, you need to know which voices to buffer off and which ones to listen to, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. How do you learn to do that? Especially in this day and age with social media being what it is, anything is magnified to such a scale.
You don't participate in social media.
Yeah.
I don't know that, we were all just talking about it this morning. It's sort of anyone who's in relationship to young children and teenagers is acutely aware of the costs and the addictive nature of it. But I think, and more in answer to your question, I think that you just need to know when to participate and when not to. You always know as an actor, in this theatre, just across the, behind those walls, it's almost a 900-seat house. And you can feel as an actor, there's 200 people in this space, you keep talking, 200, I can tell there's 3 people asleep in row G, and I know I'm losing the people up on the balcony. I think we need to lift the energy more, and you can do something about it.
Yeah.
But you know that on any night, even if it's a fabulous performance of that particular play, that there might be 150 people who go out there and go, that was the evening I've ever had. Oh, that was the best sleep I've ever had. God, she can't act. And there might be 600 people who said, that was amazing. But you don't hear every voice. You can feel it and you can do something with the general sense of it. But it's not useful to know the specific comments of those 150 people who didn't like it. You just know that you need to do something about it.
Yeah, you constantly feel like this is an internal shake that happens where you feel like you're on the edge of something and you feel you should respond, but you you shouldn't as well. You
Yeah.
want to, but you shouldn't.
I mean, it's the difference, I suppose, to go further with that analogy of standing on stage. It's the difference between being an actor, and you need and you want to have an effect on that audience on that night. You want them to leave liking the performance, being affected by the performance, but you don't want to be needy. And so if you actually were a human piece of social media and we walked around to everyone every 10 seconds, do you like me? Do you like me? Do you like me? That's ostensibly what you're doing. You think, get away. It's a really, if social media was made into a human being, you'd think, I do not want to have dinner with you. You know? It's sort of the worst part of, you know, of us as a species. Yeah. It's a useful thing, but you've got to know how to handle it. Yeah. And you've got to know when to walk away from it.
One of my favourite films of yours, Notes of a Scandal.
Oh, right.
And Notes on a Scandal. And there's this one line where Sheba says, mind the gap. There's such a distance between life as you dream it and life as it is. What was life for you as you dreamt it before you made it? And what did you realize it was or wasn't?
I'm probably going to be asking myself that question for the next 10 years.
But that's good, that constant conversation that one has with themselves.
I don't know. I'm very practical as a person, and I think those dreams, I don't try and unpick them. And so your hopes and aspirations exist, your fantasy life exists in a way that you don't, I sort of don't tamper with it, because in a way that's what I draw from unconsciously. But I certainly didn't think I would have run the Sydney Theatre Company. I certainly never thought I'd be working with brands like SK2, that somehow some physical aspect of my body would be something that was desirable to other people. I never thought that. And I didn't think you could do that and have a fulfilling creative life. I didn't necessarily think that I'd ever have children. It's not that I never wanted them, but I never thought about it. So my life is a series of surprises, to be frank. I didn't think I would have found a life partner who I'd still be, you know, be able to work alongside, be completely madly in love with, and also be my best friend 17 years later. I mean, all those things, they've been revelations to me.
We're here at part of the Sydney Theatre Company, this other part of the theatre company, and of course this is one of the walls of fame. That is your first major role here.
Yes, that was Oleana, David Mamet's Oleana.
1993.
Oh my God, is that what it was? That's a long time ago. Yeah, no, this is the home base of the Sydney Theatre Company. Yeah. It's quite unique, actually.
You have a real love for stage, don't you?
I do. I mean, it's, you know, you're thrown to the lions, but I think that's really exciting. You're acutely aware of your audience and whether you're actually reaching them or not reaching them, which you can often forget in film.
What about the directing aspect for you when you were part of this, when you were working with your husband alongside before?
You mean physically directing plays?
Physically directing plays. What was that like for you? What kind of skills did you feel you could tap into and really make the most of?
Well, I mean, for me it was always about finding the right play. Yeah. I think sort of a natural full-time jobbing director, which I'm not, is constantly on the hunt for that, whereas I think I probably respond to the material primarily as an actor, but then it's a relief that I don't have to execute it, I can facilitate it. Yeah.
It's another Australian just said to say hi to our national treasure. That's what they said about you.
Oh, is that it pointing to my age?
I think it was pointing to your talent. So
oh, right. Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
When I was doing research on you, I kept seeing, even by the most respected movie theatre critics, as they were writing about your work in Blue Jasmine, how powerful of a performance it was, especially at a time, at an age when women's leading roles such as that, meaty roles, are few and far between. And what angered me about that was, so what, you hit a certain age, and then what, you just disappear into the ether?
I mean, the media is a very conservative place. Mainstream media is a very conservative place. I think, and I don't think that's the feeling on the street. I think that women, as consumers of culture, are the largest consumers of culture. And I think, to your point, I think probably what's behind those comments about Blue Jasmine is, you know, you get paid nothing to make it. Woody Allen notoriously makes, famously makes films on a shoestring, which is why he keeps making them, able to make them. He maintains his independence that way. And, you know, all hail to him. But the film made, you know, blew all those box office records. My goodness, say all the male critics, who would have thunk a female story would make money? But it's just, it happens all the time. And it's just, why are we still refusing to see the fact that films with women at the centre make money?
But it's not even just the idea of women, but women of a certain age as well. I don't know, maybe because when I hit 40, it was that, all of a sudden I kept seeing everything about, well, you know, after you're 40, you know, roles diminish or what at work. I guess from a superficial perspective, is it important to be brand ambassadors for brands like SK2, where you are a woman, over 40, and you're still shown beautiful and can sell? Is that important?
It sounds superficial, but anything you can do to make yourself feel more confident about your skin, your hair, your body, do it. You know, and be involved in conversations that make you feel more positive about yourself.
Where did that strength come from? Growing up in Melbourne, in a house of women with your grandmother and your mum after your dad passed away. Was that strength, do you think that was nature or nurture?
I don't know, it's funny, isn't it? I mean, certainly it's, my mother and my grandmother were both very strong women. I guess it's coming off the modelling of your parents and your mother and your grandmother, for sure. My sister, and I'm sure all of that had, you know. And I remember I was watching this, you know, that show Green Acres, and I loved I was listening to all of those sort of television tunes, and my mother sat me down and she said, listen to the lyrics. Green Acres is the place for me, farm living is the life to be. And the man said, you are my wife. And the wife said, goodbye, city life. And she gave up everything for her husband. And she said, and my mother said to me, is that the life you want to live? And I said, what do you mean? It's just a song. You know, as you do as a teenager. But it's those things that your mother says to you, that says, respect yourself. I don't know. I mean, I'm as flawed as the next person. You know, as anxious and, you know, self-destructive as the next person. But, you know, you try and rise above that stuff.
I read an interview where your sister, Geneviève?
Yeah, Geneviève, yeah. She'd take Geneviève.
Is it? She said that, and I'm quoting here about you, she always felt she had to be happy and successful and never felt she could fail. Did you always...
Did she?
Well, I think it was after... your father passed, and one of his co-workers, when he came to the house, said, you know, you have to be very good.
It's funny, when someone dies, you know, it's ancient. All the portals get open, and you remember what happens that day and what's said to you. And I was 10, my sister was 8, and my brother was 12, 11. And my mum had to go off and finally turn the life support system off from my father, and her co-worker was in there, and bless his socks, he was only trying to do the right thing, and he sat us down, and of course he was very upset himself, and he said to us, I remember him pointing the finger, he said, your mother has got a very tough time ahead of her, you all have to be very, very good. And he was only trying to look after my mother, and there was no malice in it at all, but somehow that's the sense of I have to be a really good girl, I have to be really responsible. And so I think I probably took that, you know, on board. Don't worry, I've been very, very bad.
Oh, do tell.
But somehow it's that sense of being responsible, and maybe that's informed the practical side of me.
With each experience that you've had, whether it's personal, familial, professional, it certainly adds to your ability to do your craft.
I guess so, yeah.
What have you learned about yourself and your ability then to really sink into a character and take over that role?
I don't think about it, to be honest, and I don't know that I'm that interested in learning about myself, except for the bits I don't like, which you try and eradicate on a daily level, just as a human being, let alone as an actor. I'm very curious about what makes other people tick. I was saying to my son the other night, who was clearly upset about something at school and was acting out, and I said, "You're obviously upset about something, sweetheart." And he said, "How do you know?" And I said, "Darling, because I'm an actor." I said, it's my job to observe those things and work out what's making that person tick.
That's the thing, isn't it? Constantly being open to what we said from the very beginning. What you said is just open to what life brings you. There was a time when the dream for you was to play Lucy from Peanuts.
Oh, I know.
Right? What would you tell that young girl who had those dreams to live that magical life? What would you tell her today, knowing what you know now, what she didn't know then?
I think it's important not to know what I know now. I think it's so, I think that what is fantastic when you're around kids who are alive and confident, I don't mean arrogant, I mean confident and engaged and open, is that they don't have that sense of consequence. And I think it's the sense of, I could do that, or I want to do that. But I mean, I think it's probably about self-respect. I think it's not so much about what you say yes to, it's what you say no to. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big one on giving advice to younger people because there's no point, really.
Cate Blanchett, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.